My guest is the founder and president of Women's Rights Without Frontiers, an international coalition that opposes forced abortion and sexual slavery in China. She led the international effort to free a blind Chinese activist, Chen Guantan, who arrived in the U.S. in 2012. Remember this?
Greetings. My name is Chen Guantan. Standing up to tyranny is not easy, I know. When I spoke out against China's one-child policy and other injustices, I was prosecuted, beaten, sent to prison, and put under house arrest by the Chinese Communist Party, the CCP. In April 2012, I escaped and was given shelter in the American Embassy in Beijing. I'm forever grateful to the American people for welcoming me and my family to the United States, where we are now free. The CCP is an enemy of humanity. It is terrorizing its own people, and it is threatening the well-being of the world. In China, expressing beliefs or ideas not approved by the CCP, religion, democracy, human rights can lead to prison. The nation lives under mass surveillance and censorship. The U.S. must use its values of freedom, democracy, and the rule of law to gather a coalition of other democracies to stop CCP's aggression. President Trump had led on this, and we need the other countries to join him in this fight, a fight for our future. Standing up to fight unfairness isn't easy, I know. So does President Trump, but he has shown the courage to wage that fight. We need to support, vote, and fight for President Trump for the sake of the world. Thank you.
What an incredibly moving moment. My guest has testified before Congress, the European Parliament, and before the British, Irish, and Canadian parliaments. She's briefed officials at the White House, the State Department, the UN, and the Vatican. She is an expert on China's one-child policy and on the Chinese digital passport. Please welcome Reggie Littlejohn. Reggie, why was the China one-child policy adopted in the first place? What was the point?
Well, what the Chinese Communist Party will tell you was that they were experiencing a population explosion, and that's why they instituted the one-child policy. However, demographic experts will say that it was unnecessary to do that because it was the population fertility rate was already on the decline. And in my opinion, the reason that China adopted this strict, murderous, violent one-child policy was to terrorize its citizens. As Chen Guantan said, the Chinese Communist Party terrorizes its own citizens, and the main instrument of that was the one-child policy and forced abortion up to the 9 months of pregnancy.
I was going to ask you, how do you implement a policy like that? How do you enforce it?
Well, the one-child policy was enforced through forced abortion, forced sterilization, and even infanticide, the killing of live newborn infants. And the Chinese Communist Party came out in 2009 saying that they had prevented 400 million lives through the one-child policy. They actually broke that down later. It was a couple 100 million through forced abortion, another couple 100 million through forced sterilization. And they said that that this was their contribution to the fight against global warming.
Goodness. Now, Reggie, my understanding is there were more girls aborted, way more girls aborted than boys. And now you have a situation where there's a boatload of Chinese men without women.
Well, that's right. Now, this sex-selective abortion of baby girls, gendercide, is not something that is promoted by the government, but it's because of son preference. People prefer boys. So that is something that families have been pressuring women, because abortion is very, it's available in China now. They have ultrasounds so they can see the gender of the baby, and then so they pressure these women to abort their girl children. So there's now an estimated something like 35 to 40 million more men living in China than women, and that is a big part of human trafficking and sexual slavery, and also the population implosion that they are currently experiencing.
I was going to ask you that, Reggie. How has that affected China? How has it destabilized China? All these men who are searching for mates who can't find them.
Well, there's a couple ways. One, as I said, China is a tier 3 nation, one of the worst nations in the world in terms of human trafficking and sexual slavery. And they are just basically trafficking, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of women or millions of women into China for these men. And the government looks the other way because they know that they've got these 35, 40 million men without wives, and that they would have an insurrection on their hands if they actually crack down on human trafficking. The other thing is that these men, they have become known as bear branches in China. So they are the end of the line. They will not reproduce. They will not carry on the family name. And they tend to live in the poorer villages because women are upwardly mobile. So girls who are born in those villages can go to the town or the city that's nearby. The men can't. And that is hugely destabilizing to have whole villages of just frustrated men throughout the countryside of China.
What is your take on the origins, Reggie, of the coronavirus?
Well, the current science is making it look more and more like it either escaped or was deliberately released from a lab in Wuhan. We don't know whether it was deliberately released or not, but it was certainly deliberately spread. Because once the Chinese Communist Party saw that they had a pandemic on their hands, what they did is they restricted travel within China to protect their own citizens and promoted travel all over the world, including to the United States, effectively spreading the virus throughout the world.
What's that? The great Eldersky has in his baby brown libertarian fingers a tan pair of MyPillow, My Slippers. Indeed he do. Call the number on your screen, get your own pair, and make sure that you use MyPillow.com promo code ELDER if you want to do it online. And remember, Mike has over 100 products, including, of course, the product that started it all, the MyPillow. They come in different sizes. You've never slept on anything so comfortable. Call the number on your screen or go to MyPillow.com, promo code ELDER. And here is the 6-pack, including the MyPillow My Towels. They actually work. Mike found out that because of some chemicals they put in towels over the last several years, the towels you find in stores often look great, feel great, but they don't work great because they are not absorbent. These towels do what towels are supposed to do, not just cover you up, but also to absorb the water. They come in different colors, of course. And then there's the MyPillow Giza Dream Sheet. Giza is in Egypt, where the finest cotton is found. Mike scoured the world to find this cotton, and he settled on cotton in Egypt, in Giza. They come in different colors. Mine, of course, is white because I am the black face of white supremacy. What other color would I have? But you are not the black face of white supremacy. You might want a different color. They come in different colors and, of course, different sizes. Call the number on your screen or go to MyPillow.com, promo code ELDER, MyPillow.com, promo code ELDER. Okay, let's talk about the Chinese digital passport. What is it, and is it some sort of model for the rest of the world?
Yes. In China, they have something called a social credit system. And what that is they track everything about a Chinese citizen, and they have an app on the phone that centralizes this in a centralized database. So they have real-time facial recognition, they have real-time geolocation, so they know where you are, all your social media posts, your internet search history, your internet spending history, your criminal record, your medical record, your financial records, your credit card, your bank account are all centralized, so that and they give you a score, which it has to do with how reliable of a Chinese sheep basically you are. Do you go along with the party line? And if you don't go along with the party line, they will reduce your score. And what that can lead to is you can lose your job, you can lose your home, and eventually they can shut you off from your credit cards and your bank accounts. And it is very much in danger of coming to the United States through any mandatory digital ID. So it could be called a vaccine passport, Excelsior Pass, mandatory digital ID, mandatory driver's license. Any kind of a mandatory digital ID can give rise to a Chinese-like social credit system. And so that if, for example, the federal government decides that they're going to track us and rate us according to how compliant we are with the official narrative regarding COVID, regarding election integrity, regarding any issue, they can reduce our score and they could shut us off from our credit cards or our bank accounts and effectively paralyze us. Okay, and so the technology for this exists right now, and we need to resist this digital gulag.
Now, we know that China, of course, is a brutal dictatorship, but is there any kind of pushback at all regarding this digital passport stuff?
Well, I am not aware of there being a pushback against the digital passport in China, but there is a pushback against the regime. So, as you know, China had this zero COVID policy that was really hurting people and causing people even to commit suicide. It was just horrific. And so then they had these riots, and they had what I call they call the white paper or the blank paper protest, where people held up a piece of blank paper to show what they were able to say, free of censorship in China. And after that, China then, Xi Jinping then just got rid of the zero COVID policy all at once. And so now China has COVID all over the place, and they have another crisis on their hands. But they were calling for Xi Jinping, the people in Shanghai were actually calling for Xi Jinping and the Chinese Communist Party to step down. So that was pretty brave.
So give me your prediction, Reggie, 10, 20 years from now. How stable is the Chinese dictatorship? Will it survive the next 10, 20 years?
Well, that is hard to say, but I actually think it will not. And I believe that that is because of a number of factors. You know, obviously they are teetering economically, but the one-child policy, that they basically have aborted their own future. So they have just started declining. Their population is declining. And there's nothing they can do to stop it. So by, I think it's 2035, something like 30% of their population, 400 million people, is going to be elderly and retired. A third of their population, and they have no way to sustain this. So China's narrative to the world is, we are the rising power, the United States is the declining power, but they have just, in a self-inflicted wound, they have completely ruined that narrative. They are a declining power, and there's nothing they can do to stop it.
Reggie Littlejohn, thank you so much for taking the time. God bless.
Thank you very much.
Now be sure you hit that like button and hit that subscribe button, and then scroll down. You'll see where you can become a member of our mailing list. Why? Well, because every now and then, for reasons that I find unfathomable, YouTube has issues with our videos. So to make sure you get all of our videos, don't miss anything, get on our mailing list. And you see that donate button? Hit that. Throw a little something in the tip jar. Make sure we keep getting you honest, hard-hitting programming. And remember, Larry with Epoch, E-P-O-C-H, LarryWithEpoch.com, LarryWithEpoch.com. I'm Larry Elder. This has been the Larry Elder Show for Epoch Times. Remember, we've got a country to save. I'll see you next time.